So cool. I think we have audio now. Not even sure. Like I said from the beginning, this is the first broadcast on this channel. So, might run into problems. More than likely, we're gonna run into problems. Give me a second. Mic check 1 2. Mic check 1 2. Alright, so apparently I'm good. Apparently I have sound now. I didn't think I had sound. Alright, so purpose of this video / webinar or whatever is to just introduce you to concepts of publishing through HOODX. What is HOODX? HOODX is a national publishing site for artists, specifically through hip hop. But I mean, I guess anybody could publish through hip hop. I mean, through HOODX.com. But it's mainly through hip hop. Publish through get your song on Comcast network and nationally. Getting your music video aired on national television through Comcast network. Why is this important? Well, because you get it published through Comcast network, this is driving traffic towards your song. In other places outside of the internet, it's already oversaturated. And then you go on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, SoundCloud, a lot of these sites that are already oversaturated where you're not getting paid anyway to be on these oversaturated sites. So these people are competing just to be famous where they're not getting paid anything at all. Versus publishing where you actually get paid for the people who actually follow you. So you get 1,000 people follow you on YouTube, for example, like this channel, or Instagram, Twitter, Facebook. 1,000 people follow you. You get 1,000 plays. You're not getting anything. You get on a platform like Tidal. You learn monetization through YouTube. You learn monetization through sites like Spotify, things like that. Amazon Prime, Google Play, where you actually get paid for these same 1,000 followers. It obviously makes more sense to publish to these sites versus the free sites. So the videos I want to share with you will give you a different, more of an insight on how to connect these thoughts from our standpoint, in that if you're already publishing through us, why you should take the time to learn better ways of publishing. So I'm going to play a video right now that just gives a quick rundown on some basics of why you should understand what I'm talking about in publishing in the 21st century, into especially things like 2018. This guy is the creator of TuneCore, who changed the whole way of marketing and monetization of your money in the 21st century. So check this out.
So, yeah, I always get asked this and I preference it. Quick background, I launched a company called TuneCore, and it became the largest music distribution company in the world, distributing more music by more artists than any other entity on the planet. They earned over $500 million, basically became the size of EMI. in 3 years in regards to digital music sales. And a couple of years ago, launched something called Global Publishing Administration, which was the last time I was here, where we talked about the 6 legal copyrights you get and how you make additional money as the songwriter. In July of last year, I was thrown out of my own company along with the 2 other founders. So it's now what I'll call a bad cover band without a heart. It's really upsetting. That being said, it's been an interesting journey since I've left there, which ties into this, which is YouTube, which to me is really interesting. And along the way, if you have any questions, please feel free to ask. I hate standing still, but I think I have to because of the lighting, right? So I won't be paid if I just go up and down, that's fine. What's interesting is, before I even get into YouTube, your money, and how to get it, and why you've earned it, it's interesting to think about how all this came about, right? So traditionally, you record music, you write a song, and you record it. And that piece of recorded music has 2 copyrights in it. And one is for the recording of the song. So let's go to Arista Records. They hire Whitney Houston to sing a song. And when they're done, the recording of the song is owned by Arista Records. That's one of the copyrights. The second copyright is owned by the person that wrote the lyrics and the melody to the song. And in this case, it's actually, you guys know who? Dolly Parton. Dolly Parton wrote the song, I Will Always Love You. So Arista Records hired Whitney Houston to sing Dolly Parton's song, and when they're done, they have a recording. That recording has 2 copyrights in it. One for Arista Records for the recording, and one for Dolly Parton for the lyrics and the melody. If you're curious, the lyrics and the melody are represented by a C with a circle around it, and the recording is represented by a P with a circle around it. The P stands for phonogram, and the C stands for copyright. So those are the 2 pieces of copyright in every piece of recorded music. They're joined at the hip, but they also kind of work differently. And traditionally, what we did as a music industry is we would exploit the copyright. We'd find ways to make money for the people that own those copyrights off of it. And the way we traditionally did it in the music industry would be by selling pre-recorded music. You'd walk into a record store, you'd buy a CD or a piece of vinyl. You just bought it as a consumer, ka-ching, and that generates revenue for the people that own the copyright. So what we had were consumers were going out and they'd buy pre-recorded music, myself included, and we go home and we listen to it after we got it, and that was basically it. That's what we would do with it, aside from the occasional mixtape to try to get someone to sleep with you. So, come on. So that's what we would do with copyright, is we would exploit it, license it, manufacture it, get people to buy it. And then the other way copyright traditionally would be exploited would be we'd listen to it on AM/FM radio and it would appear on television, and that generated some revenue as well, primarily for the person that wrote the song, the Dolly Parton, not for Arista Records. Well, consumers changed the way they began to get music, right? I mean, we all stopped sort of beginning to buy physical, and at one point sort of shifted into buying downloads, which was still buying pre-recorded music. So the same sort of concept still applied. You'd make money when the thing was bought, and it would get split between the person that wrote the song and the person that owned the recording of the song. By the way, the person that wrote the song, I call it the lyrics and melody. It's also known as the composition. That's the industry jargon for it. And if you represent the rights to the lyrics and melody exclusively, the administrative rights to that, it's called publishing. That's what music publishing is, which is just a word. There's nothing about it that's legal. You could say bananas. It doesn't matter what you call it. So people began to shift the way they got music from buying pre-recorded on vinyl and CD into downloading. Then what happened is we began to move into streaming. And what was interesting about that is we were no longer buying our own music and listening to it. We were renting somebody else's music. So who here uses Spotify? Anyone, right? What you're doing is you're paying Spotify a fee, or advertisers are paying Spotify a fee on your behalf to rent access to their music collection. So all you're doing is you're borrowing your friend's music collection. It just happens to be everything in the world and available 24/7, etc. But you're renting someone else's music collection, and when you stop paying them a fee, you no longer have access to that music collection, right? But what was interesting about that is you had this dynamic shift in the way money was being generated. It used to be money was generated when the thing was bought. The physical product was purchased. It was this one-time transaction. You bought it in Walmart, Tower Records, Virgin Megastore, Amoeba, whatever it might be. $16.98 exchanges over the counter. That was it. That was the economic transaction. That was the whole 9 yards. And what would happen is the store would take a piece of that, and then they would pass the rest of the money back to the distributor, who would take a piece of that, who would pass it back to the record label, who would take a piece of that, who would give it back to the artist if they were recouped, who would take a piece of that, and some portion would get paid to the songwriter, the Dolly Parton, as well, for the manufacture of the CD. With streaming, you get paid not when you buy it, but every time you listen to it. And that's what's radically different. I mean, one of my favorite Beatles songs is Paperback Writer. The guitar tone in that song is insane. I don't know how the fuck they did that. But every single time I listen to that song now, every single time, the entity that controls the rights to the recording of the song and the entity that controls the rights to the lyrics and melody, one or two entities or however many, get paid. Every single time. Think how many times you listen to your favorite song. Right? So the question that's out there in the marketplace for artists, well, is there going to be enough money for artists on streams? Will the number of times a song gets listened to end up equaling more or equal than how much the artist used to make when the pre-recorded music got sold? It's actually a loaded question because the majority of the world's artists never made a freaking penny off of the sale of pre-recorded music, and everyone seems to forget that most artists were never allowed in because you had A&R people, and of those artists that were allowed into major record labels, 98% of them failed, and of the 2% that succeeded, less than 0.5% ever received a band royalty, ever, ever, ever. So when you hear people complaining, and some industry professionals complaining, it's a bit disingenuous because we've never had a world of nirvana, no pun intended, where artists were just swimming in cash. I mean, we had Madonna, U2, and you kind of run out very soon thereafter, right? Most artists just didn't make it. So we've never had this world of fabulously wealthy artists. It never existed. Anyway, so that's the question, right? Will streaming sales offset pre-recorded music sales? And if you can remove a middleman, right, instead of the artist going to the record label to get into iTunes, it sells, iTunes pays the record label, they pay the artist, you've just inserted a middleman, and that middleman is taking a piece of the money. If you're going directly from here to the artist, how does that impact things? Well, this is kind of funny. Take a full-length album, back in the old days of Tower Records, it was for sale for $16 or $17.98 on the shelf of Walmart, right? When that album sold, how much do you think the band earned as a band royalty? Guess. A penny rate, yes, off of $17.98, just throw out, so it's fair, 10% off of $17.98, $1.70. Little high, we're on $1.40 to $1.70, so more or less right. Right, so that what would happen is it would sell, but the band would be recouping an advance given to them, so they would never get the $1.70. Now, let's go to iTunes. You sell a song for 99 cents. Steven, how much do you make on a 99 cents download in iTunes? All right, 70 cents. You sell 2 songs, you made $1.40. That's as much money as you would make on selling a $17.98 list price CD in Walmart. And you're not unrecouped, so it flows right back to you. You sell 2 songs without manufacturing and co-op. So it's interesting, the cost of music got cheaper, but the net in the artist's pocket went up. Now we're getting over to streaming. Okay, so let's get back to streaming. So people are now paying to gain access to other people's music collections and stream it on demand. And every time they do that, the person that wrote the song and the person that owns the recording of the song are supposed to get paid. And they're fractions of pennies. But the really interesting thing on top of that is there's been a radical shift in what people do when they get music. When I used to get music, I usually did one thing with it. I either made the aforementioned mixtapes or I would just listen to it. Now, when consumers get music, they actually use it. Right? And they use it to put in YouTube videos. They use it to put on their blog. They use it to file share. They use it for scan and match. They use it to instant message. They actually create another piece of copyrighted protected property somewhat using this other person's pieces of copyright protected property. They use music, and they're not supposed to, according to the way copyright law works. You're not supposed to take my song and my recording and stick it into a video. You need a license for that. That's the way this industry works. You can't do that. So we're the Recording Industry Association of America, so we're going to sue your ass and stop you from doing it. Because who the hell are you to do this with our copyrights? And that's what that's all about, by the way. It's stopping other people or entities from using copyright. You can't do that. So let's alienate our consumer base and sue them. Anyway, along the way, the United States government said, wait a second, we got this new thing called the internet. And we don't quite know how this thing's going to pan out. And what we don't want to do is stifle it from growing into whatever it's going to become. Because if we do that, it'll never become this thing that could be great. So We want to have a way to protect them while simultaneously protect the copyright holders. And one of the ways we can do that is by creating something called the Digital Millennium Copyright Act. And what we're going to do is put something there called the Safe Harbor provision. So safe harbor is you're a boat on a choppy sea and you can pull into a little harbor and the sea's not choppy, right? What the courts decided and what the government decided and passed legislation, the law around this is, if you're a website like YouTube, tail end of a cold, and you have a video on YouTube and that video has music in it, and there hasn't been a license issued to YouTube from Arista Records, as an example, we don't want YouTube to be sued into oblivion. So what we're going to do is say, YouTube, we're going to protect you from having your ass handed to you. What we're going to do is put the burden on Arista Records to go and find their video, their copyright being used in your videos on YouTube. And when they find it, they have to notify you, and then you'll have to take it down. If they do that, you can't be sued. It's called the Safe Harbor provision. And this is why YouTube is continuing to grow and has been able to grow, and other websites. If users, this person right here, goes to YouTube, uploads a video. YouTube has no idea what's in your video. It turns out it's got the Beatles in it, right? What happens is EMI Records finds it on YouTube, says, YouTube, you can't have Beatles in his video. YouTube takes it down. That makes sense? Right? That's a safe harbor provision. Well, unfortunately, it's a bit of a whack-a-mole game, as you can imagine, because there's a lot more of us than there are of them. And there's just billions and billions of videos going into YouTube. But what's most fascinating is that we as consumers, as music fans, are now using the music. So the question is, what would happen if we could find a way to monetize the use of that music? Right now we've been fighting it. Stop it, stop it, stop it. Well, wait a second. Why don't we find a way to make money off of it? So this ties into the YouTube opportunity, because YouTube is the #1 place on the planet where people go to use music. It's also the #1 destination site on the planet for people to listen to music. You know, you guys probably know better than I. Most people under 30 literally go to YouTube to listen to music. More go there than Spotify, Rhapsody, Deezer, Symphony, all the other digital music services combined. I mean, YouTube's like up here. So there's some stats. They have more than 1 trillion annual views. These are now outdated, by the way. They have over 800 million unique users each month. That's actually over 1 billion unique users each month now. And it's insane. It's like, what's the population of the planet? Jesus, okay. 4 billion hours of video are watched each month. 25 billion views a month of videos with music in them. 25 billion views a month of videos with music in them. 52 million people watch the Super Bowl. 72 hours of video are uploaded every minute. 70% of YouTube traffic comes from outside of the United States. And as far as how it makes money, literally what they do is they put advertisements on their videos. That's it. They either put an ad on top of it with text or a banner, or they put an advertisement before it, in the middle, or at the end of it with a video commercial. That's it. 2011, they did about $3.6 billion in ad revenue, and in actually that should be 2011 up 100 over that second stat up 103% over 2011. That should be up 103% over 2010. 2010 they did about 1.5. 2011 they did about 3.6. 2012 they're supposed to do in the neighborhood of 7 billion. Some people have them generating $15 billion in ad revenue off of YouTube over the next 6 years. The point is that as they get more videos, they can slap more ads on them and make more money. So now I'm going to tell you, I hope, a semi-interesting story on how I discovered the YouTube opportunity and sort of got my mind around it. So I have this friend, his name is Scott, and Scott wrote the theme song to the NFL for Fox Television. Right? I mean, go Scott. That was like 17 years ago. I think he also wrote the theme song for Have a Coke and a Smile and Snickers and some other stuff. So Scott, as a songwriter, became a member of something called a performing rights organization. There's BMI and there's ASCAP as examples. And those organizations represent the right of public performance. Right? You get 6 legal copyrights the minute you make a...
So I was trying to stop that video because I was only showing you the introduction to that just to get you to understand some of the basics of how publishing works in the 21st century now, and how it's changed from people going to the stores, buying CDs, buying tapes, versus streaming, how people are getting paid to stream music. Alright, so what I'm going to show you next is a quick, I don't know if I'm going to show you this whole thing I don't know, depending on how long. It's not long anyway, but I'm just going to show you a part of this video just to get you an idea of basically what he said in action. And that, like, this guy literally takes what you just saw and puts it into play. All right. So this is Leo Cohen on a documentary called Follow the Leaders. I want you to check this out, and I'll be right back.
Leo Cohen.
If it doesn't work, that's not going to stop the party.
After using his golden ear and brash confidence to help bring hip-hop mainstream,
I know you can make songs. I want you to make more of them.
Leo now finds himself in a music business much more challenged than the one that made him a rich mogul.
It's hard work.
But he's secured the startup capital to start his own boutique label, 300 Entertainment.
We want to be the most dangerous. We want people to say, oh, why are these guys here?
We're embedding with Cohen for 48 hours to see how he can still squeeze big profits in an industry that's lost almost 60% of its revenues in the last decade.
I wake up every morning with a singular thought that today's the day that I'm going to bump into someone that will change the course of pop culture.
I'm Farnoosh Torabi, business journalist and financial expert. I've written a #1 bestseller, have an award-winning daily financial podcast, and I've frequently contributed to Yahoo, Money Magazine, and The Today Show.
You're the best.
Each week, I'm taking you on a journey to find out what makes a different business visionary mega successful.
I made my profession on knowing what people are going to do before they even know it about themselves.
Discover what drives their decision-making.
Inject fun and quirkiness into everything we do.
And find out what sets them apart from you and me.
The idea is to build a forever company.
Tonight, we follow the leader, Leo Cohen. Hi.
Hi.
I'm Farnoosh.
Hi, Farnoosh.
Nice to meet you finally.
How are you?
So
Yeah,
what brings you
I believe
here? Why are we in the store?
These boys have been nominated for a couple Grammys.
Congratulations.
And listen, I've been calling John now for 6 months, telling them, I got some really great guys on my roster. They need your and they've been fluffing me off until that Grammy announcement, and then all of a sudden, you know, come and close down the store and let's dress you.
Here's why I want to follow Leo Cohen. For 30 years, Leo's been on the cutting edge of the music business. But how does this forward thinker find opportunity in what is now such a financially troubled industry? Let's roll back 30 plus years. Rap music is on the fringes, but Leo sees the potential when few would give it a chance. He promoted concerts, then joined Def Jam Records, where he worked side by side with artists like LL Cool J, Run DMC, and the Beastie Boys. Hip-hop became a force in pop culture. By 2003, hip-hop sales hit $1 billion. And during those decades of growth, Leo was a major player, heading up Def Jam and then Warner Music until 2012. But by then, the music business was in free fall. Why? The internet. You didn't have to pay $15 for a CD. Now you could download a tune for $1 or just steal it. But Leo was undeterred. He raised $15 million from private investors, including Google, and started 300 Entertainment in 2013. He didn't care that the business that made him rich didn't exist anymore. He figured he'd find a new path. So I want to know, can a guy who has a history of seeing opportunity when others can't still make bank when the going is so tough? So you don't have an office, this is where you sit.
I sit here often because we're always having meetings.
But your other executives have rooms, offices, private offices. Why did you choose not to have one?
I didn't feel like it. I wanted to walk the walk and be, you know, working with everybody in a pit.
And that's my first insight into Leo. He knows that being in touch with the music means working in the trenches so that he can remain relevant.
Back in the day, the music business was a huge cash provider for many of these great media companies. But then with the invention of the internet and piracy, and all of a sudden the cash just stopped. And most people think, we can't make money anymore. I'm not scared of trying.
And your partners told you not to do it.
Yeah, they told me not to do it.
So why did you push for it?
Well, because I'm hard-headed and that, is that coffee? I could use it. I'm going to keep doing this as long as I have the right to do it.
And that's the second thing that jumped out at me about Lior. He has absolutely no fear and an unshakable confidence in his vision. How much faster can you work versus a bigger label?
Oh my God.
Quantify it for me.
By the time this gets to the Scout, to their next report, and to the president to get a green light, we probably signed 5 artists.
Lior knows without young, fresh talent, 300 will die. So they've developed Dashboard, a proprietary computer program that monitors the internet for songs by unsigned artists that generate a lot of activity. Lior's smartly embracing the technology that's out to destroy him.
This whole area is where I ran around with Andy Warhol, Jean-Michel Basquiat, Keith Haring. They all were in this area. This was by the original Def Jam offices. Let's go. Artist development is one of the things that have been cut out of our industry. And so helping them communicate with the fans, helping develop the interview voice, it's incredibly valuable.
Today, Lior's supporting one of his artists, Young Thug, who's in New York promoting his new album. Sure, he could leave that to a junior executive, but like he said, Lior gets his hands dirty.
Why I wanted to show up to this interview in particular is because Young Thug is an unusual and incredible and dynamic personality, but he's incredibly shy and really hasn't done any radio interviews.
If you had to put a dollar value on something like this, as far as what it's worth?
Hundreds of thousands of dollars. If you're really a compelling interview, you could touch your consumer. And here he is.
Young Thug is one of hip-hop's most vital new voices. But even he has to hone his skills at record promotion.
What's up, lady?
Hi, I'm Farnoosh.
Hi.
If Lior can eventually get Thug comfortable doing press, he will create more demand for his music.
Let's go.
Really excited about our next guest today. Ladies and gentlemen, the one and only Young Thug is here. What's up, baby girl?
This will be his first live interview, and Sway's show is really influential in the hip-hop world.
A lot of folks couldn't understand your style of rap. I even had to understand this is just a new style, more of an energy-based sort of thing, right?
Yeah, it's timing and it's like it's somewhere that never heard.
Thug wasn't all that comfortable when the interview started. He was nervous, but after a few minutes, you could see him relax and get into a rhythm.
Bye. See you later on.
That was all Lior needed to see, so he said it was time to go.
Like anything, it takes time to warm up, right? You saw at first it was 1 words, then he started getting to feel more comfortable.
But as I was about to find out, Lior's business with Thug was far from over. And that's when I really started to understand what separates Lior Cohen from the rest of us.
All right, let's go.
Back in 1986, music mogul Lior Cohen was there when Run DMC teamed up with Aerosmith to re-record Walk This Way. It not only resurrected Aerosmith's career, it was the first hip-hop song to break into the mainstream pop music charts. To this day, Lior has not forgotten the lessons learned from that famous pairing. How many cigars you smoke a day?
I smoke 1 a day.
1 a day.
I don't even smoke the whole thing. I smoke half of it.
He's on his way to hear a new song by his star artists, Fetty Wap and Young Thug, that features vocals from his relatively unknown performer, Conrad Sewell. Fetty and Thug have no idea that Lior added Conrad's vocals to the mix. But if Lior can get them to agree to keep it on the track, Conrad's career could take off.
Thug and Fetty has done a bunch of records together. So this seems like an obvious one. Both artists are exploding. It seemed like a chorus that you could sing. So if I can convince Fetty and Thug that this is actually a net positive for the record, then we should go for it.
Yeah.
Let's hear the record.
Let's hear it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Turn up a bit.
Let's hope it works. If it doesn't work, that's not going to stop the party. Conrad, thank you for coming. I'm prepared to help my artist in almost any way possible to become popular. If I have to knock down walls at radio or television or with other artists, I'm prepared to do that. It's really hard breaking an artist. It's like insanely difficult. Right now, the key is to get the momentum going for Conrad to the point that people start saying yes. So I'm just going rogue right now. It's an idea that I have. I still have to present it to Young Thug, and that would be just another way, another piece to the puzzle of trying to break Conrad.
And that, right there, is the essence of Lior Cohen. He will maximize every possible opportunity, no matter what.
So now we're going to your office.
Yeah.
So much of Lior's job is convincing his artists to embrace his strategies, like getting Young Thug to do more promotion than he wants to. And that's next on his agenda.
Wherever you want to sit, okay? The interview was fantastic. But the fact of the matter is, just like Malcolm Gladwell said, the only way that people are great is by doing 10,000 hours. You already have hundreds of thousands of hours in the studio, so you're great there. And you have not developed your interviewing and done that enough. I think it's really valuable for your business and everything for you to keep doing this, because you're good. You're actually good. Let's do that a few more times.
Another interview?
Of course.
We have interviews all day.
We have interviews all week.
Ho.
I understand that you're shy and you don't like doing it, but the fact of the matter is, your fans actually want to hear from you.
Lior often demonstrates a deft touch managing his artists.
We're going to communicate to them that Slime Season 3 is about to come.
But he's also not afraid to administer tough love when he thinks he has to.
This year I want 10 #1 singles.
10? If you don't freestyle and you actually work on the singles and record great choruses and develop your songs, yes. You just record so many songs and leave them like little orphans out there, okay?
Yeah.
You have to come back to them.
No, I don't.
And yes, you do.
Hell no. And you got the critics come back to him.
Like right now, when he tries to convince Thug to be more disciplined with his songwriting.
Farnoosh, could I get the office for a split second? Sorry to keep shuttling out.
Sometimes tough love is served best just among friends.
Listen to me carefully. You got to make songs. I'm trying to be helpful. I know you can make songs. I know that. I want you to make more of them. You're always making records and discarding them, running. I want you to go back and look at them and say, could I make this song better? Right now, Kanye is making over $1 million a show. How much are you making, son?
50,000.
I'm not going to say that I'm a father figure, but I'm prepared to do that, especially when I believe in the artist. I think you could do way better.
But y'all got the worst pizza in the world.
New York's got such great pizza, and we brought you the worst pizza. Well, on the way to the next interview, I'm going to send you to go get a really good pizza. Or just go next door.
Managing performers means massaging big egos, and Lior has mastered the art.
All right, thank you. How are you? How are you surviving the snow, the mega snowstorm?
It's warm today for a change. Music mogul Lior Cohen knows that in order to make a profit in today's music business, he's got to maximize every single revenue source possible. That's why he's here at streaming site Spotify, even though it pays less than a penny for every song that it plays.
You're the business guy. I'm the artist. I'm sorry for being late.
Today, he's meeting his artist Young Thug here so they can learn how listeners are consuming Thug's music.
This is where you make the most of your money. We sell consumption with Spotify. When you listen to the song, the record company and the artist is getting paid. Todd wants to focus on making sure that Best Friend is in position with all the good things that are happening with us.
What Lior is really doing is working the room. Thug's new single, Best Friend, is out, and he's looking to build excitement at Spotify. Maybe that means a better position on the homepage. More exposure means more potential streams.
Are you guys seeing anything on it right now?
38% of your listeners are saving your music, and 9% of the listeners are coming straight from playlists. So the fact that more of the listeners are saving it is huge.
What's the watershed moment for an artist on Spotify, if there is one?
When they break into our chart.
Once you get into the top of the charts, it will end up being one of the most profitable long-term parts of our business because it's very sticky. It doesn't go to the top and then fall straight down. It goes to the top and then it has an extremely long tail. So when you talk about Thug, he's got so many records that are still playing. So when he says 1 million streams a day, he's counting all of his records. So thank you, Steve. Thank you, Tori.
Great seeing you guys.
Michael, for everything.
Those massive numbers are deceptive because musicians just can't earn the way they used to. That means Leo and his team must always be out hustling, or they are history. You said earlier that Spotify, major gatekeeper, being successfully in partnership with them can really move the needle. If you've got 500 million streams, is there a way to quantify that in terms of income?
They've published that they do 45 micropennies, I think, per stream, or approximately half a penny per stream. Mm-hmm. You can do the math.
Young Thug's most streamed song on Spotify is Checked, with about 21 million streams to date. Assuming Spotify's paying about a half a penny per play, that's almost $105,000 for just one song. But if you take Young Thug's top 5 most popular songs that have been streamed, 58,725,741 times in total, you get almost $300,000. And remember, Spotify is just one of the numerous streaming services he makes money off of. Add in Leor's other artists and their songs, and suddenly you can see how 300 Entertainment can start to cash in. So what's happening at YouTube?
When you talk about the number of people available at any given time to be digesting his content and our content, YouTube is the biggest.
Leor wanted to make one more stop with Thug at YouTube, where his videos are streaming by the millions. YouTube pays less than Spotify, but what's most interesting to Leor is the valuable data about his artists that YouTube collects and then shares with him.
Where's our YouTube family? Hi, how are you doing? They've given us the opportunity to take a look at all your statistics, how all your creative content is doing.
You have 510 total views so far.
That's
which is
ginormous.
Dramatic
That's
number.
incredible.
You can actually geolocate the level of interaction and look, and it'll help you with kind of your touring and your merch as you're planning where to go, and you'll see what cities are most active and figure out where to do the shows for the next run.
This is all a net positive for creators and for the musicians and for record companies, especially ones that just started.
You see, in a new landscape where tour dollars far eclipse record sales, YouTube's analytics allow them to pinpoint Thug's fan base geographically. When Leor sees that Thug's videos are being streamed by more than 12.3 million people in New York, but 3.6 million in Paris, he's got a pretty good idea of where Thug should be performing first to maximize revenues.
Thank you, guys. Thank you for everything.
It may have been 4 o'clock, but for Leor, the day was just starting. He still had to convince Thug to work with his new artist, Conrad, and that was going to take some doing.
Bye, YouTube. Everybody at 300, let's go. How long till you get here?
I'm walking out right now.
Can you hurry up because we can only... All right.
Music mogul Leor Cohen still has one bit of business to conduct with his hip-hop star, Young Thug. Convince him to keep a vocal track by up-and-coming performer Conrad Sewell that Leor added to Thug's new song. Knowing that asking any artist to share the limelight can be delicate business, Leor asked that we film from afar without me in the car.
Hop in there for 1 second. I want to play you something. I want you to listen to this. If you don't like it, say you don't like it. If you like it, I want to try to get your vocals to work on this, okay?
You know what? I don't think it's a bad song. I think that I've heard mines too much to the point where anybody else on it, I'm gonna be like, nah, I don't like it. But the voice, who is that?
That's my artist, Conrad.
I'm gonna do you a favor. I'm gonna let you keep him on it, but he's not gonna be on top of me.
Yeah,
he should. You should have him under me.
Okay. No, because we didn't have your vocals.
Okay, so when we go to the studio, we'll get it together.
Perfect. All right.
And that's a perfect example of the value that Lior brings. He understands how to get his artists to buy into his big picture strategies. Getting Thug to collaborate with a relatively unknown artist like Conrad Sewell could rocket Conrad's career forward and boost 300 Entertainment's bottom line literally overnight.
Farnoosh, that was fun. I'm so happy I have my job and not your job. I'm exhausted.
Likewise.
Okay.
Thank you so much. Good night.
Bye.
I finally understand why Lior Cohen would choose to start a record label in a financially challenged industry.
We sell consumption.
Because Lior sees change as a means to find opportunities where others may not.
I'm not scared of trying.
Lior is using advanced metrics to find the next new talent, and he's staying nimble enough to sign that talent before the big guys can. He's focusing on making his artists popular on streaming services so he can reap big bucks from mass plays.
I'm prepared to help my artists in almost any way possible.
He's using analytics to make touring and merchandising more profitable by finding where the core fans are. He treats his artists like family and gets them to collaborate like family for the greater good.
If it doesn't work, that's not going to stop the party.
Lior Cohen has been a major force in the music industry for over 30 years, but he's willing to discard the past and keep looking ahead.
I'm going to keep doing this as long as I have the right to do it.
Now I know why so many people want to follow this leader. For deleted scenes and other extras, go to followtheleader.cnbcprime.com.